Beloved FreeMelon friends, welcome back to the FreeMelon Society. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. I am Eli, and today we are tackling a subject that is very close to me. This is a very personal issue, so I'm going to give you a little insight into just some of the occurrences in my life that I've experienced recently. And I was very close to not making this video, but I think it's important for me to share with you some of the things that I go through in my life. You subscribe to this channel if you are a FreeMelon, then you understand where I'm coming from in terms of morality, in terms of truth, in terms of righteousness. And you guys know how I live. I don't participate in most eating cultures at all because they're all wrong. They're either immoral or they have nothing to do with true health and wellness of the human being, of true spiritual wellness, so on and so forth. So I want to give you a little window into my life recently and, just share a story with you. So it's coming up to Canadian Thanksgiving. It's a ritual whereby we glorify the slaughter of a particular animal, the turkey, and we put its carcass on the table. We take wheat products or whatever, and we take the wheat products and we ram it up the turkey's ass, and then we eat it.
Oh, no.
When you think about it, it's a very strange ritual and it's a very strange tradition. And so what happened was I wanted to make it known to my family that I was no longer going to be partaking in this tradition. I was going to be at the house, available for conversation and whatnot, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I would not participate in this tradition of ritual murder. So as you can imagine, I had to confront a very special member of my family with news of this, and I knew that, of course, I was going to get questions and feedback and rebuttals and whatnot, and I was going to be asked, well, why are you doing this? Why are you taking this position? So I resolved that when it came time for me to break the news, that I would, using very straight arrow logic, rational, moral argumentation, I would explain exactly why I'm taking this position and why that position is in the better interest of the collective growth of the human spirit. Okay? So I broke the news. I'm no longer going to be sitting at the dinner table so long as we carry on this tradition of unnecessary murder. I choose not to be associated with it. Okay? So the first question, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline each question as I remember them and how I responded with them. And, hopefully you get something out of this. So comment number 1 was, why? What made you decide to do this? This was my answer. I said, why am I doing this? It's very simple. The answer is because it is wrong. It is not right. It is not morally defensible to live in an environment where we have access to an utter abundance, a sheer myriad of different types of foods that require no slaughter, no torture, no tragedy whatsoever. And despite being in an environment where we have these choices, to willingly choose to support an institution, an industry of unnecessary slaughter, just to satisfy our own adulterated tastes and appetites. I followed up by saying I'm not comfortable partaking in a tradition and ritual whereby we celebrate by eating dead animals that did not need to be killed in the first place. Not only that, but I don't know if this is news to you, but eating carcasses is not a very healthy thing. Okay, so that was my answer. Now, there's only so many ways you can really respond to an answer like that. It puts the questioner in a very difficult position because it's hard to argue against morality. It's very difficult to argue against morality. If I say, I believe it is good judgment to abstain from the practice of punching my neighbor in the face, how do you have a rebuttal for a moral stance like that, right? Like, how could you argue, I think you should punch your neighbor in the face, for no reason? I'm assuming he's not attacking you or you're defending yourself, right? Just no reason, unnecessary. What's the counter argument, right? So when you stand in line with true morality, it becomes very difficult to argue against that. And, you'll see that as we go on.
Okay, just as an additional note, for those of you that did go through Thanksgiving and have turkey without one single thought of what was necessary in order for you to have your turkey on that dinner table, right? Don't you dare look away, because this is what is necessary to happen in the world for you to continue to practice that adulterated behavior. Okay? And you know, I get pretty heated when I talk about this kind of stuff, because it's very frustrating to live in a world that is so devoid of the basic rudiments of morality. Just like, I don't understand how they can't see these things, you know, how you can't notice what is obviously wrong with this. Look at this image and tell me what happens in your heart when you see this animal being sacrificed for absolutely no reason. It's oh my God. Oh, Jesus. God. Like, look. Look at this. Just look at this image. Okay? Look, what do you feel inside when you see this? Okay? What is the difference between what happens in your heart as a human being when you look at this image compared to an image of, let's say, a child eating a watermelon? Is there any difference in what you feel? Any type of revulsion? Like, you gotta ask yourself these questions. And now we're boiling the thing in a vat of water because, you know, God forbid that you actually eat the turkey like an actual carnivore on this planet would. No. You have to completely change and transmogrify its entire chemical nature before it's even palatable to your mouth. You know, it's just like, this stuff is not even a debate anymore. And it does get me pretty worked up.
So, the significant family member obviously didn't have much to say about this and simply moved on to the next question. Next question being, well, I don't think it's right that you force your belief or viewpoints on other people. Okay, so it's not right that I force my belief on other people. So my answer was, okay, so you don't believe that I should be forcing my views on other people. You have to understand that that is absurd. My lack of participation has absolutely no bearing on what others choose to do or not to do. I'm using my power of free will choice to abstain. Everyone else at the table has that exact same free will choice to do what they normally do. I said if I were forcing my belief on everyone, then I would hold everyone at gunpoint and say get rid of all the meat and all the products of slaughter off the table, otherwise I kill you, right? That is forcing my belief on someone, but I'm just not participating. So that's absurd. It's an absurd argument. And I made this very, very clear. Again, there's not really a good rebuttal to straight arrow logic like this, right? We all have free will, so, you know, you have to understand that the position that you're taking is not correct. So the third thing that was brought up was, well, when we're entertaining or with others at social gatherings, we don't do only what we like to do, we have to do what others like. Okay, I don't necessarily disagree with this 100%. Obviously, when we're in social settings, we do alter the way we carry ourselves and the things we do to a certain degree. I actually think it's very important to have an understanding of other people's preferences and other people's likes and dislikes and whatnot. I think that's important because that allows us to be social, to socialize harmoniously with others. You know, if one of my best friends has a fear of clowns or something, you know, it might not be a good judgment for me to dress up as a clown every time I go to see him and go, "Ah," and try to scare, you know, that's not very sensitive, okay? So obviously I agree with this to a certain point. Here's where we make the distinction. When it comes to straight objective morality, that is where I and you must draw the line. So I use my best friend analogy. Here's the situation. You are going to a family gathering, and somehow all these years, you totally missed the fact that your family is a family of cannibals. And you discover that the next family gathering is going to be a cannibal feast, eating dead babies from the neighborhood that they just scooped out of their homes. Do we adhere to our position whereby we say we don't only do what we like to do, we have to do what others like? Do we stick with that and then just say, you know what? Everyone else is doing it, so I'd better jump on board. And you go to the family gathering, you bring your dead baby, and you add it to the table of dead babies and you eat. Right? Is that the right thing to do? Is it right in that case to simply do what others do because that's what they like to do? No, it is not. It is not right because it is in violation of objective morality. In order to survive and live very, very well, You do not need to kill the babies of other families just to satisfy your palate. This is not necessary. So to do it when it is not necessary is immoral, okay? You have to have a very clear conscience to be able to say this, right? An unadulterated conscience to be able to see this in the traditions that we carry on. So no, you don't have to stick to conformity. You don't do what other people's do just because that's what they do if it's not right, okay? You're in high school, your friends invite you to go to a party. When you get there, you realize that the party involves a party ritual whereby you find nerds and you string them up to a tree and you beat the crap out of them, and it's a lot of fun. That's the setting, that's the ritual, that's the tradition. Everybody is doing it. Do you stick to your conformity guns and say, well, you know what? That's what everyone else likes to do. That's what I'm gonna do, goddammit. To hell with my conscience, to hell with common sense. It doesn't matter that I can have fun doing other things. I am gonna choose to have fun doing this immoral practice and this immoral behavior because everyone else is doing it. That just shows a lack of personal integrity, a failure to respond to the moral calling that you feel inside because other people do not have that same moral calling. So this line of thinking that, we need to cater to the preferences and the beliefs of others, you can't apply this when it violates morality, okay? You can apply this when it is in line with free will and choice of everyone. When it comes to morality, you can't make this argument. Now, after giving this analogy, I knew exactly what the follow-up question to this would be. And that was, well, I think that's a bit of an extreme example. And I was like, aha, an extreme example. I knew you were going to say that before you even knew you were going to say it. So I respond with, well, I'm glad that you brought that up. So I'm going to put the ball in your court now. I want you to tell me exactly why the example of the dead baby on the dinner table is different than the dead turkey on the dinner table. Why and how this analogy does not apply, and why and how these two things are different. Just any particular details on how and why they're different. Now, from what I remember, I didn't actually get an answer to this, or at least a good one that I could remember. If there was a good response, I would have remembered it and I would have told you about it truthfully, but there wasn't one. In answering a question like that, you immediately bring to the surface the revelation of one's own failure in conscience, right? You would have to admit that you do believe one particular species deserves slaughter, deserves to be killed, or can be killed with impunity, while another species does not deserve this type of treatment. You would have to allow this type of character trait to surface. Because the only answer really that you could give is, well, the analogies are different because a turkey is a turkey and a human is a human. And it's just not the same thing. We're human. That's all you could say. And in so saying, you reveal your speciesism. If it's not necessary to kill, then killing is an immoral choice. Period. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's a turkey. It doesn't matter if it's a cow, a pig, a pigeon, or whatever. If you just shoot a pigeon for no reason, it's immoral. You didn't need to shoot the pigeon. It's not right. It's not correct. It's not morally justifiable or defensible behavior. So there is no difference in the example, in the analogy of the dead babies on the dinner table or the dead turkeys. It could be a chickpea meal. It could be a mushroom meal. It could be apples and bananas. It could be potatoes, eggplant, or whatever. Whatever. It could be anything. Any of the spectrum of foods that do not require tragedy before you eat. It could be any of those. So no, the dead turkey and the dead baby are the exact same thing when it comes to the moral ramifications of the behavior. So I pointed these things out very, very clearly. And the last question, the last comment that I had to answer was the following. Well, you have to remember that not everyone shares your belief about these things. So we have to cater to everyone's particularities. Okay. So my response to this was the following. I see what you're saying, but you have to understand that morality and belief do not necessarily have to sit in the same boat. They can, but they do not have to be. Me understanding the fact that to kill when killing is unnecessary is wrong is not a belief. That is a moral fact. So I had to explain that the sponsoring thought behind the question that you asked me, or the idea that empowers that question, is that we need to conform to popular culture even if it is immoral. Do you understand that? If a primitive culture with lower understanding has a belief of ritual sacrifice do you, with a person of higher moral understanding, allow yourself to participate in that behavior? Not all beliefs are created equal. My belief that I don't want to participate is governed by moral fact. It is not governed by an irrational, cultural norm. Okay, so no. Now it takes a more refined conscience to be able to peer through a lot of the shortcomings of culture. But when you do cultivate that conscience, the immorality of the whole thing, it becomes very, very, very obvious. Very obvious and very difficult to see your loved ones, participating in it. I'm going to wrap it up right now. So I hope that in sharing this little slice of my life with you, you were able to take something away from it. If anything, just a keener understanding of how culture forces your complicity without you actually taking a second to think about the behavior or the rituals in itself. Why do we do them? Are they right? These are important things to think about in your day-to-day lives, not just with cultural practices. But cultural practices are huge wherever you live, with everything, right? Anyway, something for you to think about. Thank you for letting me share this with you. I really appreciate it. I think it was a good thing for me to share. I was very close, like I said before, to not making this video, but maybe it's nice for you guys to hear about what happens in my personal life. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for joining me again. If these videos are helpful to you, then please subscribe to the FreeMelon Society, become a FreeMelon today, right? Kickstart your path to higher awareness, to truth, morality, spiritual growth, right? Very, very important videos and whatnot that I try to put up. Hit the bell notification so that you don't miss a video that I post. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions as best I can when I do have the time. I'm just one guy. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next time on the show.